G'day everyone. Tuesday the 6th of May and the election hangover lingers like a bad smell, Johnny.
Yeah, it is. It's more than a hangover, I think, Hoodie. It's more like a natural disaster that's going on for weeks, I think.
That's going to go on forever, mate. It's just going to go on and on and on. And to
Mm.
discuss all these and all these matters electoral, we're joined by our good friend George Christensen. Great to see you, George.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, and I'll sort of confess my sins to everyone out there. I've kept these guys waiting a while because of tech difficulties, so thank you very much for waiting, and I hope we have a good discussion tonight.
I'm sure we will, mate. And because John and I are going on a schedule, before we get into the interview with you, George, I want to go through our guest list in the coming couple of weeks. Tomorrow morning, we're interviewing Dr. Larry Palevsky from the USA, who's a good compatriot with Dr. Simone Gold. And man, he's got a CV that goes for miles, Johnny. Dr. Wayne Road, who wrote Vaccine Court, the book in America, will be coming on as well. Warren Treadray, the AFL player, formerly commentator of Channel 9, who wouldn't get the jab and took them to court. He'll be joining us. Also, Professor Ian Plimer will be on a panel with Professor Gigi Foster. We're getting Trevor Loudon back on again, who wrote Comrade Prime Minister, to discuss where we go from here. Great expose on Anthony Albanese. And another wonderful coup for us for the second time on our program, Senator Ron Johnson from the USA will be talking to us about all matters MAGA and also MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, RFK. So that's going to be a very, very big lineup for you. And many But now let's unpack a few things with George Christensen. And before we get into the whys and wherefores and where to from here, George, what's the latest that you know? Where are we standing at the moment? Is Adam Banks
up shit creek without a paddle is the expression I think that you use. Quite honestly, we've got one of the worst Labor governments back in again for the next 3 years. No, forget that. Not the next 3 years. Next 6 years, most definitely.
Yes.
The next 9 years, probably. The next 12 years, possibly. That's the result that we got the other night. I guarantee you guys, you cannot come back from that disaster at one election and the other long-serving MPs and senators that I've been talking to over the last couple of days tell me you can't come back to it within 2 terms. So, as I say, we're going to be in for at least, I believe, a decade of hard labour. And that's got the capacity to change this country, not only economically, which we've seen the absolute disaster that's befallen us in terms of price rises, power price rises, all that sort of stuff over the last few years, housing crisis. We're also going to see it changed culturally. And, if you thought things were woke now, wait for another 3 years. If you thought 1.4 million migrants being brought into the country was bad enough in terms of its pressure on housing and on public services and even on the culture per se, wait for the next $1.4 million. There's actually a smart video going around. You'd think it's an attack on the government, but it's actually for real. It's some guy that must run some international student racket, and he's on there telling everyone else, well, the Labor government's been re-elected, so everyone can breathe easy. We're going to have a lot more international students coming into this country, and using it as a gravy ticket to actually get into the permanent residency and get their hands on all of the sort of welfare benefits and other things that Australians actually enjoy. What's the silver lining? Well, you're right. I think that it is a bit of a... I don't want to talk it up, but I don't want to talk it down. Getting rid of the Greens in Ryan, in Brisbane, and quite possibly in Melbourne, it does look like Adam Bandt is gone, but I don't want to pop the champagne cork yet because they haven't fully counted it. It's really coming down to the wire. But that makes me feel good. I'm sure it makes you feel good, Hoodie, John. Yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
it's a feel-good thing. It's actually a do-nothing thing, because apart from removing those Greens from the House of Representatives where they had no power beforehand, all it's done is mean that we're not going to hear Adam Bant or these two other minions in the House of Reps ask questions of the government. We're not going to hear them give, petty speeches. They had no power beforehand because the government had the majority. And even if they were there this time, they would have no power, even if they were back there, because the government has the majority. Where it matters is in the Senate. And I'm sad to report that actually the Greens achieved their highest Senate vote ever this election, higher than last election. Bizarrely, the House of Representatives vote dropped this election, and that I think was a direct result of those 3 seats. But their Senate vote has gone up this election. So go figure. But that means that all of the Greens that were in the Senate last time round will definitely be re-elected. So heaven help us, we will have a Labor government where the Greens quite possibly hold even more of the balance of power. We've also seen some teals peel off in there. It looks like the woman that was cheering in Kooyong, not Kooyong, Goldstein. What's her name?
Zoe Daniel?
Zoe, yeah, I think so.
Zoe's gone. Monique Ryan, maybe.
Nick Ryan, quite possibly.
See her go. I can't wait to see her go. Monique Ryan.
Yeah. So again, these are sort of feel good things because, quite honestly, they're completely and utterly useless. They do nothing apart from just talk. George,
how's
they're the silver lining. Yep.
How's One Nation looking at the moment?
One Nation, look, in Queensland, it's still a toss-up between whether it will be Malcolm Roberts re-elected or Gerard Rennick. I've got to say that I'm pretty sure it's going to be Malcolm Roberts, just looking at the numbers. He's a little bit more in front than Gerard Rennick. And sadly, there was only room for one there. But I was talking to a One Nation insider this morning who said to me that their prospects in WA are pretty good. They're not very good. They're pretty good. They probably rated themselves with about a 60% chance of getting a spot there. Victoria, what I was told is that the prospects are pretty much equal right now to the prospects that Ralph Babbitt had at the last election. So they're holding some hope out for a potential spot in Victoria. It's probably about a toss a coin chance in New South Wales, still a chance, but getting a little bit more difficult. And Tasmania is the wild card. Nobody knows because it's such a small state and things go hell west and crooked there. So, there's a possibility, but they didn't want to put any sort of pressure on themselves to say that they might pick up that spot. But they're hopeful. They're definitely in with a show in Queensland, and there's some hope that there could be 3, possibly with Tasmania, 4 other spots drop.
Yeah, we interviewed Lee Hanson, Pauline's daughter, a couple of weeks ago, George, and she was a very impressive candidate on camera. She was the real deal. That's the way I read it, John.
She'll be the one. She'll be the one if they get the Tassie spot. But it's a wild card at the moment. I mean, no one can tell you which way that's going to go.
And that means Jackie Lambie misses out, George, does it? If that eventuates?
Yes, and that would be excellent.
And that's another good result.
A fair result.
Well, yes, it would.
If Jackie wasn't so all over the shop, I mean, she would have been all right. But she sort of goes this way on an issue, goes that way on another issue, and there's no consistency. And sometimes I wonder if she even knows what she's doing, what her raison d'etre is. So, having someone there with some consistency that people know, this person's got our back, that would be very good.
I think the real worry, though, is in the Senate, isn't it? I mean, because although the Greens really haven't had or and won't have any influence in the lower house. For Albanese to pass legislation, he's going to have to give a bit to the Greens, hasn't he? And that's the worry.
Yep, that is the big worry. And we can see that they pretty much were lock in step with the government on all sorts of things. It wasn't until the very end that they come out against the misinformation and disinformation bill, which is the big one I'm worried about coming back. And they only did that because the others who are on the crossbench basically nixed it. And then it was safe for the Greens to come out and say, okay, we're not going to support it either. But of course, their reason for not supporting it was they wanted it to go harder. They wanted to capture, media outlets like News Corp in it because they write nasty things about the Greens that they don't like. So, they can't be trusted. They can't be trusted on freedom. They certainly can't be trusted on energy. They were missing when it came to the whole COVID pandemic thing. And, bizarrely, I say this about the Greens and some of their former supporters. I can remember being in Brisbane at a rally during the pandemic or just after. And I'm just trying to remember what rally it was. It might have been the People's Revolution. They have a movement in Queensland called the People's Revolution that had a rally there. And some bloke come up to me and he said to me, I used to think you were the devil. I thought, what an introduction. And it turned out that he was a lifelong Green supporter, really anti-coal, and I come from a coal mining seat in central Queensland when I was an MP. So I was always rah coal mining, because it keeps the lights on and keeps people employed up here. And so I used to think you were the devil. And he explained it. And he said, but mates, I will never vote Greens again. And there's a lot of people like me. We are very conscious about health issues and about Big Pharma. And I cannot believe that the Greens are actually backing Big Pharma over people like us. So they lost a lot of credibility actually during the pandemic too, amongst their own people.
Why do you think it is, George, that the Nats have been a lot more stable over the last 10 years than the Liberal Party? I mean, they seem to be, eating themselves alive and very vulnerable to the electorate, whereas the Nats have been pretty. I mean, they're the same consistent faces there. They seem to get re-elected without too much drama. Margins.
Mate, I'd say that actually being inside the tent there, I know that it hasn't been all hunky-dory. The Nationals certainly have two factions, and that is those who sort of believe the National Party to be what it should be, and that's the like the old country party of old. And those people, they're sort of the now would be seen as the renegades, the ones who want to buck the trend sometimes and go against the grain in the coalition. So that would be your Barnaby Joyces, your Matt Canavans, Colin Boyce, Lou O'Brien in Queensland, Keith Pitt until he recently left and got a job as an ambassador over at the Vatican. Who else? A few others, perhaps even Andrew Wilcox, who took over my seat, probably gravitates more to that particular crowd. But then there is a element within the Nationals that is in control of the party. I've got to say that is probably pretty much just Liberals and a Kubra, and they're people like David Littleproud, Darren Chester, and so on. There's a few senators in that mix as well. So, you do have a bit of a split. And what happens is you have a look at the people who are very, very successful in getting re-elected, and it's the people in the former column that I mentioned, the Barnaby Joyces, Lou O'Brien, Colin Boyce. These people got swings towards them. And you know why? Because they do their own thing. They're effectively like a country independent, a conservative country independent. That's how they operate. stuff the party. You know, I'll do what's best for my people here, and that's why I think that they get the big swings that they get towards them in a time when a lot of others got swings against them. Having said that, I shouldn't be. It's not as clear cut as that. I understand Darren Chester, who I said was, one of the Liberals and the Coobras. He got a swing towards him as well. And what I would say about that is that, in general, Nationals MPs are much more focused on localism, regardless of what their sort of global view is, whether it's one that's more conservative or one that's more left-leaning.
And Michael McCormick got a swing as well, and I suppose you'd sort of put him in that group with those guys.
Michael is a good mate. He would hate to be called a Liberal in a Coobra because he doesn't like the Liberals so much deep down. But look, Michael is probably in the group that coalesces around David Littleproud. Yeah.
Let's talk Liberal Party for a moment, because there's a leadership tussle going on at present. What have you got? A right-wing faction member and a left-wing faction member. I'm feeling like Susan Lay will probably get it. What are your thoughts?
Right, someone told me the other day when she was paying like $5 or $6 that I needed to throw a lousy 100 on it, and I missed the opportunity because she's now odds-on favourite, paying about $1.20 from the last time that I looked. So there's the hot tip that went missing. I should have put some money down on Sportsbet. But anyway, she will be Liberal leader, I have no doubt. She will be a placeholder. She won't be Prime Minister, I'm afraid to say, for her. I think that's why you're not seeing such a heated contest. People who have long-term aspirations do not want a bar of the leadership right now, because it is effectively a poison chalice, because they know they're going to get smashed at the next. Well, they're not going to get smashed, but they're not going to win the next election. And not winning the next election normally means leadership renewal. So wait until after the next election, then you might see some action. But whoever gets the job now will just be seat warming. The gross thing is that you might have seen on X over the past few days, and on My Nation First, I've been reporting that there were machinations inside the Liberal Party during the election that were all about destabilisation and sabotage. So there was people within their own organisation that did their darndest to ensure that Peter Dutton would not be Prime Minister. And part of that, there was a lot of elements that were working together to undermine things. And one of them was actually people with leadership aspirations in the future. And, as a proof point of that, I'd heard that already from a couple of different sources. They didn't have too many receipts on that. They just had, a lot of hearsay and he said, she said stuff. But actually, Holly Hughes come out on Sky News today and pretty much confirmed it by saying that that people were actually doing the numbers for someone during the middle of the election campaign, doing the numbers for leadership on someone else. And so that tells you everything about the Liberal campaign. And yes, look, it may have been that at some point people decided, hey, we're going to lose. So let's start working on what has to be done straight after the election. Whatever the case, they derailed their own campaign. There was sabotage. People, senators did it, MPs did it, and certainly people in HQ did it. And I've got a whole list of stories, some of which I've published, some of which I haven't, because I, don't have the formal proof points behind it. But the stories go from real solid campaign events, as in, for instance, this one. So someone had organised for a range of service stations that were going to lower their prices in accordance with the Peter Dutton's tax cut. and they would lower it for the time that Peter would be there in the mornings and the afternoons, holding the fuel bowser, being the Bowser boy, filling people's cars up. Now that is a great stunt, you can imagine there'd be bloody cars lined up around the block, to get their tank fueled, and it'll be filled up by Peter Dutton. And there'd be a lot of talk about that. There'd be a lot of press about that, and he was going to do that in a whole heap of different states and a whole heap of different seats as well. So that was the plan. I don't think Peter Dutton was actually ever told about the plan, because it got to their HQ and they killed it. They killed it, and they said, "Oh no, that'll probably amount to what's the word I'm looking for? Inducement." And that'll be anyway. They didn't want to do it. Now that could be incompetence, but there was probably one too many things like that went on to think that it was just all incompetence. At some stage, they decided, we don't want to do this stuff because it's not going to matter. Dutton's not going to win. That's our view. Dutton's not going to win, so we just won't do any of it. Won't waste our time and won't waste our energy and resources. And literally what they were doing is that there were candidates out there that were quite conservative, that were raking in donations. They were snaffling up the donations and telling them, we'll get it for you, but really siphoning it off onto teal seats and stuff like that, so that the lefties in the Liberal Party could score a win. So a lot of different things like that were going on. And I think that at the end of the day, there's two mutually exclusive strategies for the Liberal Party. One is to chase seats, and they have done this election, and it's worked out. Well, no, it hasn't worked out. It's worked out for them in those seats. So the chat did this in Kooyong, and they did it in Goldstein, and they probably did it in a few other seats that the Teals held. I think one that they feared might be going away from them. I just can't remember. It's a New South Wales seat. It looks like they might have clawed back there too. So they threw the kitchen sink at these Teal seats, or seats that were in danger of falling to the Teals. The problem is that when you are saying a message that's going to placate their voters and try and get them back, that is mutually exclusive to the things that need to be said and done, not just said and done, to win over the voters in outer metropolitan, suburban and regional areas. And guess where the Liberal Party has faltered? It's faltered in the outer metro areas. It's faltered in the suburbs.
Yep.
Some of the regions it's also faltered in, but some of the regions are also rusted on to Liberal and National Party people. But the only wins that they've had that I can see is against the Greens in Brisbane, against perhaps two of the Teals in New South Wales, and they staved off another Teal challenge in Sydney. So a better strategy, and this is my free advice, would be to say they're too hard now. The voters are too far from the Australian mainstream. They need to either like what we put forward or lump it, and they can go to the Teals and stay with the Teals. Problem for the Liberal Party, these are seats that they've always held, and they talk about them as jewels in the crown, like they belong to them. So we've got to get them back. And that's their problem. So they need to forget that. And if I were the Liberal Party, I'd be really repositioning myself to be a party that is conservative, but also for the tradies, also for the blue-collar people, a party that's going to stand against mass immigration, a party that's going to actually be more populist than any other party in Australia. And we'll see the results of that if we actually have an election that's run like that. You got these people at the moment setting their hair on fire and saying, we were too right-wing, we were too much like Donald Trump. I don't know, I must have missed that bit. Did you see anything in the election where Peter Dutton was doing anything that was, right-wing or too much like Donald Trump? I didn't see it. Man, I wished I saw it.
I wish
I didn't see it.
Opposite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But George, let's look at the when you look at the numbers, Labor's got this massive majority now on 34% of the vote. So
Yes.
that means 66% of the people who voted didn't vote Labor.
Correct, on a two-party preferred basis, though. So, I agree, and I know where you're going with it, and you are right. There are more people that did not vote for Labor than did, but you have to remember we've got a preferential system in Australia, and that means at the end of the day, people are forced to give a preference between one or the other. How many people would not have preferenced the Labor Party had they not been forced to do it is a question that we'll never know the answer to. But yes, go on. We've got
I'm not pointing to any conspiracies or anything like that. I'm just saying
no.
They're running around. Penny Wong was running around this morning like a peacock.
Skiding.
Yeah.
Yep.
So 60% of the people voted against Labor in the voice referendum. They voted no, and a lot of people. A lot of people seem to think, well, a lot of people are agreeing with me that the two-party system's on the nose. And a lot of people, they're either not voting, and that the people who didn't vote this year, this election, has doubled from last time. So there's a lot of people disenfranchised with politics, and there's a lot of people looking at the independents and the minor parties. So what has to happen for that to gain enough traction for those people to have a say in their own government?
Yeah, well, that's a multi-million-dollar question. Just on a two-party preferred basis, it's pretty much close to 55-45. So Labor's got 54.63% of the vote after all the preferences are counted, and the Liberals have got 45.37. That actually is, in political terms, a sizable difference. That's big. But on the I just want to go through this on the first preferences. I'm just looking at the information I've got here. You're right, it was about 34 point something or other. If I just bring this up, hang a second. National totals. First preferences, Labor 34.78. And the Liberals and Nationals on about 31 about 32 actually, something like that, about 32%, around that figure anyway. So this is the bigger story, right? About 35 for Labor, 32 for Liberals. So that gets you 67. So there's a third of people out there that aren't voting for the major parties, and I got to say, unfortunately, about 12% of them are voting for the Greens. So then that leaves the rest. And I think the rest, the vast bulk of it, is about the 13 to 15% that are voting for what we call the minor right parties. And to get back to your question is, where do those people go to get a voice in government? I wish I knew the answer, mate. I've got many thoughts, and the thoughts are. My nanny used to tell me that, what thought did? It went outside, put its backside in the window, and then went coming back inside to see it. The thoughts are great, but they don't lead to actions. But let me just say what I'm thinking. There's a lot of people that are talking about, can the Liberal Party be changed? It's possible. Alex Antic is trying to do a lot in South Australia to turn it into a truly conservative party that protects freedoms. And I've got to say, he's a fair bit there. But there's other states, such as mine in Queensland, where the people who are in control are in control like fascists are in control. And they do not let people enter the party if they can find anything wrong with them, anything. I heard a story today about a young bloke. He's in his late teens, wanting to join the party, and they're holding him up because they found a photo on his Facebook page from about 6 years ago when he was a school kid with Pauline Hanson. I mean, that's the kind of mentality that's out there. We don't want anyone that could be suspect. Anyone that said or did anything that's slightly outside the norm, we won't accept them. So, and there's an ongoing joke in the Libertarian Party, used to be Liberal Democrats, because most of them actually came out of the Liberal Party and were sick of it, and so they joined the Lib Dems. And their ongoing joke is, oh, here's another person that wants to change it from within. We've all decided that we wanted to change it from within. And then at some point we realised it can't be changed from within. So, there's two sides of that argument.
Well, John Ruddock even wrote a book on it.
Yeah, he did. He did write a book on it. If they listened to John Ruddock, perhaps they would be great again, and they would be it would have been in a winning position this time around rather than in the position they're in, which is dire straits. But then we look over to the Northern Hemisphere and we see what's happened in the UK. And actually, that's through just being at the right place at the right time, where the Conservatives have absolutely, given themselves an uppercut from their time governing. The Labor Party coming to power, people still being a bit unsure about them as well. And a lot of people think it's all Nigel Farage. I'm sure Nigel added to the vote, but actually the Reform were on the ascendancy when Nigel Farage decided to go for that seat. It was because the polling was showing the seat was winnable that Nigel Farage jumped into that particular constituency that he jumped into, because it was a sure thing. And he got elected, and they've gone from strength to strength to strength. And no doubt partly that's because of him, but partly it's because of the mood in the nation. The Labor Party is not doing what it should do for the working people. The Conservatives had their go and they absolutely stuffed it, and they didn't do the things that people who are on the centre right and the right wing want them to actually do. So who do they look to? And so they've looked to a new force. And I think if that can happen in the UK, there's no reason why it can't happen here. But the biggest problem is we've got too many groups there. We've got too many personalities.
Mm-hmm.
We've got too many people that want their own personal little fiefdom in terms of a political party, and never the twain shall meet. And if I have a look at the results, Libertarians, please vacate the field. Stick to state politics in New South Wales and Victoria, because you got less than 0.5%. Behind them, groups like the Heart Party, great. They're very principled, but you just got to look at reality. They didn't do much. They didn't do anything. They probably just chewed up the vote and it went nowhere. Rod Cullington, I mean, nice bloke, but again, Rod, what did you do? Your vote's not moving. In fact, it's going down. So vacate the field, please, because all that's happening here is people are voting for you and not preferencing correctly. And I could go on. I mean, I'll probably get some brickbats for it, but my good friend Lyle Shelton runs Family First. And, I was having a talk with him before the election about this idea of uniting the different parties that are out there, and he pushed back. Then I saw him out there, saying it was great, their results, and how they got more than 4% in a number of seats, which entitles them to public funding. Well, I mean, Mark Latham also had a bit of a snipe at him, and I sent that to Lyle, and I said, he's right, and the whole thing was that he's saying that Mark was a bit dirty on him because they didn't do a deal with him. But whatever the case, Family First didn't win a seat. I don't think they got anyone into Parliament. Their preferences didn't go anywhere that was vitally needed. Maybe they went somewhere in the Senate somewhere where it was needed, but they're just chewing up votes that aren't being preferenced diligently and securely. And look, to explain this to people, what happens is in the Senate, there's about 13.7% of the votes that went to all of these right-wing parties. And I include in that One Nation, Heart Party, Great Australian Party, Family First, Libertarians, Citizens Party, Shooters, Fishers and Farmers, There's probably other parties that have missed. People's First, Gerard Rennick. Trumpet of Patriots, of course. All of those, I think that might be the full list. I may have missed one, but anyway, that'll be the full list, just about. All of them together, 13.7%. Now, I talked before about the Greens got a bit less than 13.5%. So that force together, Australian Christians, that's another one too, by the way, that they're in the list. That group together, by rights, should hold the balance of power as well, alongside the Greens. That they should have one spot in every state if it was a consistent 13.7%. But we don't. We'll probably have one. We'll definitely have one spot in Queensland. It'll most likely be Malcolm Roberts. It could be Gerard Rennick. And there's a possibility there might be someone in WA and maybe in Victoria, New South Wales, Tasmania, but they're not sure things. So we could end up with just one. That's a distinct possibility. Just one.
I don't think.
But actually,
sorry, George, go on.
But when the consolidated vote should have meant one from every state.
Mm.
So the more parties you have, and the more, because people preference, parties don't preference. Parties give a preference as to how you should preference. They tell you, we would prefer that you give them number 2, them number 3, them number 4, them number 5. But it's up to you. And if you don't do it, if you just put a 1 there and walk away, that vote's still valid, actually. But your votes go nowhere. Or if you put 1, I'm going to vote for them, I'll vote for the Libertarians too, and I'll end it there. Again, these players might not get close to being elected, so your vote gets wasted. And a lot of people do that, more than you would realise. A lot of people expire their vote or exhaust their vote without it going to someone that could potentially win. And that's why we don't have a so-called freedom senator in every state.
How do we rectify it?
Well, players need to vacate the field who clearly aren't winning and clearly have no prospect of winning in the future. Now, that's going to make me sound like a rah-rah One Nation all the way. Not necessarily the case, but it is true to say that of all of those parties, the only one with multiple prospects is One Nation, and the only other one with a potential prospect is People First. Every other party did their dough, particularly Trumpet of Patriots, and pretty much wasted their time. Pretty much wasted their time and wasted people's votes.
It's pretty apparent that there's no love lost between People First and One Nation.
No, and that's the problem, is that there are far too many egos. And it's easy to understand why. I mean, when you are on the right side of politics, when you believe in freedom and liberty, you're often very individual, and you have different views. You have your views, and you don't necessarily want to sign up to a tribe or a collective. But that's what parties are. That's why in the Labor Party they're almost all like automatons. They'll just go and all vote the one way because the party must be obeyed, obey the party, toe the party line. Whereas on the Liberal and National side, you do see some people that break outside the mould, such as, Gerard Rennick when he was in the party, but also Alex Antic, Matt Canavan, to a lesser degree, Matt O'Sullivan, I think his name is, over in WA. You saw people like Russell Broadbent when he was in the party speaking out. You go back to me and Craig Kelly when we were in the party, or parties. I was in the National Party. So that's the difference. And on our side, a lot more people are a lot more individual, but it leads to those personality clashes. And we really do need to get over them. We really do need to get over them in order for this to go anywhere. Because while Clive's going to stand off against Pauline, or Bobcat is going to stand off against Clive Palmer, or Jared Rennick's going to stand off against Bob Catter, or well, they were together. It's going to, Jared Rennick's going to stand off against Pauline Hanson. We're all going to stand off against each other, and we're all going to go nowhere. So the smart way for the right is to pick a party and all fold within it. And if there's policies, if there's elements, if there's way that the party is run, that is the bugbear, then try and sit down and have a conversation about it, have discussions about it, have debates about it and arguments about it. But until those things happen, we're not going to go anywhere.
Who's the chance of mediating something like that, George? I mean, who do you think would have the ability to get that across the line? I mean, it's a big ask, isn't it?
Boutros Ghali. I don't know. They called in the United Nations. They stuff everything up though. But anyway, look, I don't know. I can say on the positive side, we did see a little bit of it taking place. You would notice joint tickets that were happening all over the show. I mean, Jared Rennick, People First, they were running joint tickets with a heap of parties, the Heart Party, Libertarians, up in Queensland, Katter's Australia Party. So there was this sort of convergence that was happening. That's possibly another potential, right? If people don't like for instance, my good friend Lyle Shelton decided we don't want to fold Family First. We want to keep it going because we expect in 10 years' time One Nation might not be here and there needs to be a vehicle for the movement then. We'll keep Family First, but actually agree to a joint Senate ticket so that when people go and they look for Family First, they'll see it and it'll be in the same column as One Nation and the same column as the Libertarians and the same column as Great Australian Party and all the rest of it. If you could do that, you'd be on a winner. And how would I do that? Well, if I was in charge of it, I would say that you set up some rules in terms of how many electors from each party can come in. You have all the candidates turn up, and the best person that performs on the day or who has the best CV or whatever the criteria that you're using to pick your candidate, they're the ones that win the pre-selection. And, whatever party they have belonged to, that's the one that's going to get the place there. Now, that's one way of doing it. Of course, the other way of doing it could be horse trading. Well, we'll take the spot in Queensland and New South Wales. You guys take the spot in Victoria and Tasmania if you win it. And you other guys take the spot in WA and South Australia if you win it. So there's many ways of doing this, but you could have joint tickets that run everywhere and the parties could all stay separate. But it's just that when it comes to a vote, if you're wanting to vote for one of those parties, there's only one box that you can go to.
That was sort of tried with Jason Miles and Rod Cullerton back in the when they set up CADCO, the Commonwealth of Australia Democratic Cooperative. That's pretty much what you were just describing then, George, and that seems to me to be an ideal way to do it.
Yeah. So there's many other ways.
But for the egos, that's the problem.
Yeah. So the other way of doing it is almost the wildcard way, and that is that if none of them want to do it, then you know what, a new force has to be created that can outgun all of them, and that's probably a very big call. But I think that's what happened with Reform. Reform wasn't on the landscape. There was UKIP, United Kingdom Independence Party. There was the Brexit Party. There was the British Nationalists. There was a whole heap of others on the right. But this new party Reform got set up. They just staked their claim. They said, this is what we stand for. They got some good people to run for them. And they won. And they left all of the other minor right parties in the dust. And so that's also a prospect that every single party that's sitting there protecting their own fiefdom should be thinking about as well. What happens when someone like Dick Pratt decides he wants a Trump here in Australia because he supports him in the US. And you know what? We need a new political party. And you know what? I'm going to put $1 billion into that exercise. And actually get very credible people, very credible policies, very favourable coverage. And suddenly not only are they beating every minor party, but they're beating the Liberal Party. It's exactly what's happened with reform. So we can hold on to our fiefdoms. We can all be king of the sandcastle. But we might not get inside the gate of Parliament House. So what are you then? What are you then if you have no MPs and you're pretending to be a political party? You're a debating society. That's all you are. You're a fundraising club and a debating society.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, George, people like Monica Smith are out there now saying, I'll join the Liberal Party. But you and I both know that it's not that easy to join the Liberal Party or the National Party. And they're quick to throw you out of it. I'm one of them. People like Matt Camonzuli, the list goes on. I mean, I know from my experience within the Liberal Party that it's not likely to change. I mean, Susan Ley, who's just in the next electorate across from where I am. I mean, the right of the Liberal Party have been trying to unseat her because of her underperformance for the last 20 years. I mean, and here we are now faced with the competition that she's the Messiah. I mean, are they kidding?
She's not the Messiah. She's just a very bad girl. And so I think that, that's the parlous state they're in. That in normal times, Susan Ley would not be considered for the leadership at all. And that's not because she's a woman. It's because
you wouldn't put her in a portfolio, George. I mean,
no. So she's, and unfortunately for some of the so-called minority groups out there, which includes women, you get propelled to positions that actually probably shouldn't get propelled to. And I think that's a good case. I can remember Susan. I mean, look, I didn't have too much run-in with Susan there. She didn't set the world on fire. But I can remember going to her when she was Environment Minister and arguing for something. And I just can't remember what the topic was. It was probably something to do with the Great Barrier Reef and the impact that all the regulations were having on farmers. And, she said something to me which was like arguing against what I was saying. And I sort of like looked at her because she comes from a rural electorate. She comes from sort of, I thought she come from farming stock. And I sort of said, you serious? And she said, well, I have to have that position because I'm the Environment Minister. It's like, no, you don't have to turn into a greenie just because you get the environmental portfolio. In fact, that's the worst thing, So that's the view that she had, is that she should be like a quasi-greenie because she's got the environmental portfolio. Well, not at all. No. So anyway, heaven help us.
Heaven help us, all right. I mean, realistically, I don't see any Nigel Farage popping out to save the coalition. I mean, the only one that I think would realistically have a crack at the moment is maybe Barnaby. He potentially has the ability to
wrong party though.
Wrong party, and this is,
Andrew Hastie may be a future leader. It'll be interesting to see what Andrew Hastie as Liberal leader will bring to the table. But he's going to bide his time. He's not jumping at it. He's not jumping at it, even though he was probably ahead in the polls to actually take that position, because he's smart enough to realise that that's a poison chalice. Whether Andrew Hastie will be the great white hope for the Liberal Party in the future, well, that remains to be seen. I like Andrew Hastie, but I'm also well aware, this is not speaking ill of Andrew Hastie, I'm just well aware that the Liberal machine, when it kicks into gear, it can pull even the best of us into line and have us out there saying things that we wouldn't have said beforehand and didn't believe beforehand and probably still don't believe now, but we're told that we have to say them. So, the jury's out, and therefore that's why the jury's out for me on the whole prospects of changing the Liberal Party.
George, is there a statesman in Australia
Right now?
Mm-hmm.
I'm racking my brain. Look, I think that you said someone who I actually think is a statesman. It might shock some people, but Barnaby Joyce. I mean, he's got his peccadillos, no doubt. So did many of the great statesmen throughout history. Look at JFK. I mean, Marilyn Monroe. But I think Barnaby is statesman-like in his leadership. Apart from that, I start to struggle in who I think in the federal parliament, even in the Liberal parties, is a statesman. And this may be because there are people who haven't come to the ascendancy and we haven't seen what they're made of yet, which is where I probably put Andrew Hastie, right? I haven't seen what he's made of yet.
What about Alexantic?
No, not Albanese. Did you say Albanese?
Alexantic.
Oh, I thought you said Albanese. I was going to say, go and hop on the back of the kangaroo and ride out.
Australian
so Alexantic, yes, he is. He's actually a really top guy, but again, he's in the quandary is he's in the wrong house. He's in the Senate rather than the House of Representatives, so he can't run for the leadership. He can run for the leadership in the Senate. The problem is, let's just be real here, is that they sideline him, people like him and also Matt Canavan. They're the people that speak out within the party on our behalf, but they are largely sidelined by the rest of the party, and probably incredibly frustrated for being sidelined like that. Having said that, Alex doesn't stop. He's plugged away. He's reformed the Liberal Party in South Australia. He's going to continue doing that. And, what are they going to do if he runs for a lower house seat at the next election and wins it? And then continues on from there. I mean, anything's possible. Anything's possible.
What actually prevents Alexantic from being the PM in the upper house?
It's as a section of the Constitution. Don't ask me to give you the section, but
because Gorton was elected, wasn't he?
So it requires the Prime Minister to be in the lower house, to be in the House of Representatives. You can be Prime Minister. In fact, I think you can be. No. I've got to say something completely wrong. You can be Prime Minister. I'm just trying to remember the clause. I think it gives you 3 months to get your backside elected in the House of Representatives. So, that's why Gorton, he stood down from the Senate and he ran for, I think someone might have vacated the seat and he ran for it and he won it. And so he was elected as Prime Minister from the Senate, the first time that had ever taken place in Australia, but he exited the Senate pretty quickly and went for the House of Representatives. So they give him 3 months. So it's possible. You also got to remember we're talking about the opposition leader here. I guess there's nothing in the Constitution that prevents the opposition leader from coming from the Senate, although they too would end up having to go into the House of Representatives before the election, or at least run for the House of Representatives at the election. Because they wouldn't be able to be Prime Minister otherwise. So yeah, look, that's a possibility. I tell you what, there is no qualms over though, even though it's convention, and that is the National Party leader coming from the Senate. And so if you tell me who should be the leader of the Nats, it should be Matt Canavan. It should be Matthew Canavan. And there is nothing preventing Matthew Canavan, as far as I know, from actually being the leader of the National Party in the Senate, because the leader of the National Party is never going to be the Prime Minister. Unless it's for a short period of time, such as Blackjack McEwen, it was 40 days, and 40 days is less than 3 months. The only time that a National is elected Prime Minister or made Prime Minister is when there's a death or a sudden absence of an existing Prime Minister, and it takes a few weeks for the Liberal Party to get their act together and pick someone. So, there's no reason why it couldn't be Matt Canavan, and that'd be a good arrangement.
And do you think that's likely, George? Do you think there will be a spill of the leadership in the Nats?
I think there'll be a challenge. I think there should be a challenge. I think that David Littleproud has got as much mud in his hands as anyone else in terms of this ugly defeat. And he was the one that carried ahead with the strategy that the Nats have got to shut up and stick to their own knitting in their own seats, let the Liberal Party win back some of these teal seats, and that's been a disastrous outcome for them.
And look, the one thing that Matt Canavan would obviously bring to our audience would be the fact that he, rightly believes that the COVID handling was a mess.
Yeah, he does.
The other leadership, I mean, Michael McCormack, who I'm friendly with, he doesn't even want to talk about it.
No, he doesn't either, and that's probably right to characterise. He actually he wouldn't stake a claim either way. Yeah.
So it's
but do I believe that Matt Canavan would get elected? Well, not with the current makeup of the National Party, no. It'll be interesting.
It's a shame.
Yeah. Well, everything's a shame at the moment.
It's a dog's breakfast. That's what it is.
But can I say that where we're at didn't need to be the place where we were at. If the Liberal Party, I mean, look, I was in Canberra. I was in Parliament House in November last year, and I got to say, I was also in Canberra, although I didn't see him then, at budget time. And in Parliament House last year, there was a buzz around the coalition. People thought they were going to win, not within the coalition, that was the case too, but people around them, like, these guys are going to win. Holy moly. Didn't expect that. They're going to beat Albanese. And that even lingered up until around the budget, right? There was this sort of view. So that wasn't too long ago. And then something happened. They left Parliament. They stopped the agenda that they were on for all of last year, which was getting them traction. And all of the pundits got around Dutton and the spin doctors and said, you've got to act like this, Peter. You've got to not say that. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. We've got to pivot. We've got to work to get the teals back and work with these green seats and try and win them. And we can't do that if we're talking about this issue and that issue and all the rest of it. So they went to water. And Alex Antic actually pointed out a really great thing. Their policies that they took to the election were akin to what he said was a mobile phone contract. For the first 12 months, we'll give you this. I don't think that those sort of policies go down too well. If they were going to cut fuel excise, don't just say to us it's for 12 months. Say to us it's forever. And if you're going to go half, go the whole way. Get rid of the bloody thing altogether. I mean, and when people say, oh, well, how are you going to pay for it? Well, they were going to ask you that anyway if you were going to cut half of it. But you know what? Did anyone ever ask Labor how they were going to pay for the NDIS? No one ever asks anyone how they're going to pay for grandiose spending programs, but they ask us how they're going to pay for tax cuts. Well, you know what? The people should be that's the people's money, not the government's money. Shouldn't be asking where we're going to find that money from. That's the people's money. Anyway, I'd tell them to go jump if I was the leader. We'll find it. How will you find it? We'll do a root and branch review of the government and we'll rip out all the waste and all the overspending that we can find. That's how we'll do it, just like Trump's done with the Dogie, but what they should have done is set up a clear contrast between Labor and Liberal.
Yeah.
And the clear contrast should have been primarily around two issues. Really is one issue: cost of living and immigration, morphed into the one. And instead of this idea that we're going to do a 25% cut, and again, it was the old mobile phone contract, we'll deliver that for 2 years, and then after that, we'll review it. Well, no. It should have just been said, we're going to do a mass cut to the immigration rate. It is too much. We need a few people in here. We don't need a lot of people in here. So we're going to cut it by 75, 80%. We're going to cut immigration hard. They could have, even if they wanted to go and say we're going to freeze it for a year, it'll be zero, or net zero. People will have to go out before they come in. Whatever the case, go hard on immigration. It was the number one issue that was out there. And really, it wasn't being talked about, because when it was talked about by the Liberal Party, it was sort of at the corner of earth, and we're going to cut immigration as well by 25%. But don't tell the ethnic communities. Don't tell the ethnic communities we're going to do that, because it won't go down too well in places in Sydney where there's a high Indian population or a high Chinese population. Don't talk about it. So great. How did they do in those communities? They could have shouted this from the rooftops, and it would have won regional areas. It would have won the outer suburbs. It would have won Western Sydney. And you know where it wouldn't have worked? It wouldn't have worked in the inner cities. And so they wouldn't have won any teal seats or green seats, but they probably would have come close to winning the election.
We've got to wrap it up, George. We've been going for a while, but one final question for me. I'll throw another one at you, John. I'm starting to think that compulsory voting does not work.
No, it doesn't work. It's terrible.
It's a mess, because we're seeing a lot of illiterate voters just, voting against Dutton because he was bald, or my favourite colour is red. You know what I mean?
It's terrible. It also leads to a non-principled politics, because it is awful. It needs to end. You should be informed as a voter. If you don't care, if otherwise you'd be sitting around watching the football, you shouldn't be voting. And and that's your right also in a democracy to say none of the above. I don't want to have anything to do with this. But it really does lead to this view that we're going to stay in the sensible centre, which basically means whatever the ABC says goes, or whatever the mainstream media says goes. That's a sensible centre, which is so far off to the left, it's not funny. And you know what? When you have voluntary voting, people come out when they're ticked off about an issue, when they want a certain issue resolved. And that's when we get values-based politics. We don't have values-based politics. We've got this mindset that we're going to be in the sensible centre, no one do anything. And we get this policy myopia. And then also what we get is give people a lot of free shit. Because if you give them a lot of free stuff, they're going to vote for you, because, they're not switched on in politics, but they're going to be switched on if we say to them, hey, we're going to make all your dental visits free. Then you might get a few people going, oh, yeah, we'll do that. That sounds good. Except it's not free. Nothing's free. Someone pays for it.
Johnny.
Just a couple to finish off with, George. Quick ones. What happened with Matt Camonzuli and the polling? I mean, were they ringing up people that couldn't speak English?
I don't know. Look, I thought that Matt had a pretty good chance there too. The polls said he did. The only thing I can think what happened is that as the election campaign went on and things began to crystallise that the Liberal Party was going down, Labor within the ascendancy, I think that it probably changed on that. Either that or the polling was flawed. I don't know. I'm actually seeing Matt Camonzuli tomorrow. I'll ask him what happened there. It's a shame that he didn't get in, because he had very big ideas about uniting the right, and I think that Matt Camonzuli would have been a very good member of Parliament as well.
He'd certainly be one that we'd have to consider to be one of the mediators across the sectors. One would think. I mean, he's a great mind and a great guy that does wonderful things. Just finally, George, the loss of Russell Broadbent to the Australian Parliament. I mean, we spoke about statesman tonight, or Hoody mentioned it. I mean, he is a guy who was a statesman.
Yeah, and look, I would agree with that. And it's funny to say I would agree with that, because truth be told, Russell and I didn't get on when we were members of Parliament. But I got to tell you, the guy, he fought for his electorate, and he fought for freedom, and he fought for truth over the COVID pandemic. And, he probably was someone who was a fair bit quiet while it was going on, but the more and more that he saw after the fact, the more and more angry it got him. And he fired up. He was a trooper at the end. And, and that was before he was, he didn't get pre-selected. He was already there, so it wasn't just a come to Jesus moment because he was no longer in the Liberal Party. He was of that mindset before his pre-selection. So, I'm sad, even though we personally didn't get on. I'm actually sad that Russell Broadbent is not in the Parliament. It would have been good if he had stayed to keep that fight up. But now we're left with a dwindling number of people that actually want justice on this issue, and justice has not been delivered yet. We haven't even had a Royal Commission. We haven't had a proper inquiry into it whatsoever. I don't even think anyone's really seriously looked at vaccine injury, and that does need to be looked at.
Definitely.
Well, there we go. I think we've got to wind it up, George.
Yes.
If you don't mind, we'll close this with a prayer as customary on our program.
Go for it, mate.
Lord Father in heaven, we just thank you for the ability to be able to look into the crystal ball of politics. But Lord, most of all, we thank you that for those of us who believe in you, we know that you're still in control. So please grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Johnny, you've often been heard to say.
You just couldn't make this stuff up.
You couldn't. George, thank you once again. You've been a marvellous guest as always, and we look forward to having you back on again. I'm sure there's a lot more stuff going to crystallise in the next few months, and we'd love to get your views.
Indeed, and you guys have your catchphrase, I do too. God bless you, your family and nation.
God bless you all. And don't forget, everyone, what you did yesterday got you to today. Don't lose track of the fact that you still live in a great country, and it's a great country because you live in it. God bless you all, and bye for now.